Hey everyone, welcome back. What a crazy time it's been. The amount of subscribers that have joined this channel the last, 2 weeks has been absolutely ridiculous. I did not expect that, but it's super motivating to see that so many of you actually want to see the content that I'm putting out. And it makes me want to create even more, so let's do just that. Today we will take a look at this animation that I just finished. Now that my film Sensations is done and published, I want to start working on my next project. For each film I make, I obviously want to improve, so to do so I want to explore new ways of making things better. This short clip was a nice practice on how my characters could potentially be made for an upcoming project. I'm very early days on what could be my next film in terms of a concept and so on, so while that is still in sort of an idea phase, I will spend some time developing a new look for it. And I want to share this with you guys, so hopefully there should be many videos to come on different explorations that I'm doing. For this one, I started out by drawing a few characters in Procreate on my iPad. I really liked this guy, so I wanted to see if I could animate him and put him in a scene. I shot a reference video of myself acting out the motion. You can see the bottom layer here in Photoshop is the video layer of me. However, my wash is hanging in the background and it's a pretty terrible shot in general, so sadly you don't get to see it. But for the next one I will try to show you how that was done. But I outlined some key poses from the video to get a nice motion to it. I don't want the character here to look like me or have my proportions really, so I hid that layer after capturing the key information I needed and started drawing in the rough pass of my character. As I've said before, this stage is really important, and if you can define a design early here, you might be able to finish it with only 2 passes, one rough and then sort of a cleanup pass. After my rough pass was done, I had a really good idea of how the final character would look like, so here I just had to draw it again on a new video layer with less loose and more confident lines. I had not drawn any hair on his head except the beard, so I went in and did a quick animation of it. I choose a different color here just so I could differentiate from the sketch below. Then I cleaned up all the rough sketches. I choose to make this guy quite detailed. It definitely slows down the process the more details you have for each frame. So there are many things to remember to draw in, but focusing on one bit at a time, you suddenly stand there at the finishing line with a full animated character. Now this was just 8 keyframes, and when they are played back the animation is way too quick, so to smooth it out I added another 8 keyframes in between, or maybe there was, I think 7 maybe, basically creating a blank frame between each one that I already drawn, and then using the onion skin features in Photoshop I were able to find where each element of the character goes for those in-betweens. When that was done, I sort of filled each frame so I had a mask that made up the entire character. This was done on a separate video layer. The quick selection tool is great for this. For the final colors, I added yet another video layer on top that I then set as a clipping mask to this mask layer. This way I never have to worry that I draw outside the mask and get messy edges. I would say all these steps are quite slow, but they are enjoyable. Before jumping into any lighting, I wanted to get the environment in. For this piece I was just making things up as I went along. I had no real clear goal from the start, just loose ideas. I wanted to play with some dramatic lighting, so I knew I had to put him in a somewhat dark place. In Cinema 4D, I went back to one of my old projects I did for this channel a while back and grabbed a rock that I created for quick blockouts of environments. I made a few copies of it and created this cave layout. I dropped on one of my painted textures and set up some lights. I rendered it and then I went over it in Photoshop and painted it up. This is the background I ended up with. Turning my character layer back on, I added a black layer on top of him that I lowered the opacity of slightly. This is a video layer with black on each frame, so I can now go in and paint in the highlights using white. I set the layer to multiply, so everything that is white will be transparent, meaning that it will show the original brighter colors through when I paint with white. But before I did that, on each frame I focused on getting the light from the crystal in his hand to illuminate his face. This was the most fun and satisfying bit to animate. It's a great practice for understanding form and how the shape of the face catches the light. You can see how I did some rough lines for some of the frames just to see how the light would animate. I then make sure to play it back and forth a lot so I can see that the light flows well. I'm quite pleased with how this looks, and I'm quite excited to get started on a new film. This particular piece has not really anything to do with this film, but it really helps me to find a style. And since I want to be confident that I can make it look a specific way when I start working on it, I don't want to start and then realize that I want to change the way things look halfway through. And as I said before, I would like to take you with me on this journey of making this new film, so let me know if that's something you want to see. Since so many people have been following recently, it would also be really cool to connect with you guys in some way, maybe share techniques and chat a bit more in depth about animation or whatever we're up to. So maybe I'll set up like a Discord server in the near future that we can all join if you want to. I will probably notify you in an upcoming video if this happens or not. Anyway, the final animation was brought into After Effects, where I did some final compositing, adding a slight blur to the background and also some small camera movement. Here it is one more time. If you have enjoyed this and have not subscribed already, please do so. Like this video and write some witty comment below. Stay alive, and I will see you guys soon.